But today we're going to shed light on a very interesting topic, women in ancient Egypt. Through studies and research, the studies revealed that women in ancient Egypt enjoyed a very high status. Actually, they were doctors, they occupied decision-making positions in the country, and this even led that women in neighboring countries used to come to Egypt to enjoy this very high status of women. Not only that, but also we're going to shed light on some secrets of the hieroglyphics, the ancient Egyptian language. We are very much delighted to have with us Dr. Heba Nayef. She is a professor of communication at the Faculty of Language and Communication at the Arab Academy. Dr. Heba, it's always great to have you with us. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Dr. Heba. Dr. Heba, to start with, why people are so much fascinated by the greatness of the ancient Egyptian civilization, and especially we want to focus on women in ancient Egypt.
I think if you want to understand the present, you have to go to the past.
Indeed.
And that's why, and the glory of the Egyptian civilization, that's why people are so much fascinated, as we have seen in the latest discovery we had in Motoria, and the passion of the people there. And it's since Napoleon and the occupation of Egypt in the time of Napoleon, and he started to discover Egypt and introduce Egypt to the world.
Yeah.
And started from then, we had what is called Egyptomania. We have lots of books about Egyptomania. That was common in Europe at that time. And of course, it's understandable that we have this Egyptomania in Egypt, but it's throughout the world. Because it's the great Egyptian civilization, you will not really understand it unless you start to know details about it.
Yeah.
They were not just an ancient civilization or ancient people. They were amazing, fabulous, if we can say the word. Sometimes it exceeds our, understanding, and we don't understand how could they do this, all this. And women in ancient Egypt, in particular, had a very good status, as we will elaborate.
Tell us, because if we're talking about Egyptomania, you yourself, though you're a professor of language, you developed this passion, and you started conducting studies and research in this field. And through your research and your studies, you came to various interesting
This
results.
was a gradual thing. While I was interested in linguistic sexism, and I was trying to see linguistic sexism in the present time, and how language is used to disparage women or abuse women, and so on. I went back to Egypt, ancient Egypt, and I was
started
amazed.
tracing the whole thing from the
I was
beginning.
amazed, yes. It was not there. The language, speaking about the language of ancient Egypt, you know, it's very common. I'll give you one example. It's very common that we have what is called the coordinate pairs, like men and women in English. And men have the masculine form of the word has the supremacy and the superiority. And it has to be the first, men and women, رجال ونساء, okay? And this is in almost all languages. This was not the case in ancient Egypt. They did not say men and women. It could have been women and men. So this coordinate, and this is just an example that gives you a glimpse, because language is a tool that reflects your ideology. So if your ideology does not say that men, they have the upper hand, so this is reflected in the language itself.
You know what I noticed, Dr. Heba? I noticed that through visiting temples and historical sites, you would find the statues of ancient Egyptians. You would find the size of the statue of the woman, just the exact size. The statue
a little bit smaller, probably, because women are smaller
because
in size.
Yes, but it's not that difference in...
And again, Dr. Hella, this is one of the things that really grabbed my attention, is that if you go to the museum, you will see most of the time the statue of a woman. Go to the Egyptian museum and you will see, especially in the Old Kingdom, in the room, in the hall of the Old Kingdom, you will see different statues of women, and all the time she is seated by her husband, and there is this, body language speaks.
Exactly.
She
Like
is
putting
either
her
putting
hand
her
on
hand
his shoulder
yes,
or
behind his shoulder,
I've noticed
or
that.
on his waist. It's a sign of support.
Is it existing in the different families or the different dynasties of the ancient Egyptian civilization, or we witness changes there?
You know, ever since the Old Kingdom, and this is very interesting, because the Old Kingdom means the real beginning of Egyptian dynasties.
Yep.
So if you can, Hela was talking about doctors, physicians.
Yes.
The first women scientist
Yeah, you
in the whole
mentioned that to
world
me.
is Merit Petah in the third dynasty. And if you are going to, for the person who are not familiar with what's the meaning of third dynasty, it's the time of the stepped pyramid, the real
the very
beginning.
old time.
The real beginning. And do you know what was her title? Chief physician. It's written that she is the chief physician, Merit Petah. Okay, it means the beloved of God Petah. Merit means the beloved. And then the fourth dynasty, we have the famous Peshat, a physician for the king. Amazing. We
in the
have
fourth dynasty, the physician for the king was
for
a
the
female
king. Yes,
physician.
this is Peshat.
That's quite interesting.
And when you know that women scientists, you know this fallacy that says women goes for languages, literature, media, but not for science, not for math. This is a fallacy that is proven a fallacy by Egyptian women in the third dynasty.
They were into science and...
It's true that male doctors exceed in numbers female doctors. But when Merit Petah has the title of chief physician, it means that she is a supervisor of male doctors.
4,500 years ago.
Almost more, because she lived in between 2,700 BC, which means that 4,700 years ago. Amazing. And then we have a philosopher, and we have, by the way, we have two Cleopatras. You know that we had 7 queens with the name of title of Cleopatra.
But the most famous one is the last one.
Cleopatra the 7th, yes. But we had physicians. We have Cleopatra the alchemist, a woman, and we had Cleopatra the gynecologist. She was, yes, she was actually writing books about gynecology.
Oh wow!
Okay,
that's interesting.
Women in this is women in the field of science, and this is not everything.
That was in which dynasty, Dr. Heba?
Actually, Cleopatra, the alchemist, I think she was in the third. That was in the third.
The early dynasties.
No. This was actually probably in the 34th dynasty or something like this. That was.
Okay.
I have a question here, Dr. Heba.
Yes.
Why wasn't there a focus on women in ancient Egypt? And why do we have only few famous women in ancient Egypt? And now you're revealing that we had 7 Cleopatras, we had women physicians who wrote books. What's the reason?
And
why
actually,
didn't Egyptologists focus on
before
women?
I answer this question, I'll tell you, we had queens as early as the 6th dynasty.
Because we don't know many queens who
Queen
ruled
Netet
Egypt.
Chris, and she reigned for 3 years. And then we had Netekris. And then we
Never
had
heard of her.
Never we had a queen on the 6th dynasty, and then we had in the...
Why they were not known, Ms.
In the
Heba?
12th, sorry.
Dr. Heba, why they were not known for us as Egyptians?
We will go back to Dr. Hela's question about Egyptologists. Who are the Egyptologists? That's we need to pose. Actually, these were Western men.
The West.
Exactly, Western men, starting from the time of Napoleon, then Champollion, then Young, and Petries, and etc. All the big names in Egyptology. They came from the West. At that time, women in the West were not associated with big deeds. Okay, so if they came with this culture, they did not look into it. And this question was asked by the famous Egyptology Bob Breyer. And he said, why? Because they did not understand the fact that women probably had, you know, a status different in Egypt than it was in the West. And if you compare in the ancient world Greek women to Egyptian women, the difference is amazing. Do you know that Herodot said that in Egypt they reversed the nature of mankind when he watched women? Because for the Greeks, women didn't have the right to inherit. In Egypt, land is inherited by women.
In ancient Egypt.
In ancient Egypt, by women.
A struggle
and it goes
now for
from
some
a
Egyptian
woman,
women.
from a mother to her daughter. This is the land. It's for women. And we go for trade. Egyptian women went for trade. And they went to the market. And they did not have guardians. You know, in Greece, they had this, you know, a place in the house for women. You know, it reflects al-haram.
Like the haram, yes.
It
But
this
why
was
did
in
it reach
ancient
that
Greece.
stage later on?
Because you
was
actually
a foreign
started to,
influence?
no, you started to adopt another culture
Yeah.
with a different ideology. And you did not, and this is a very good question. How come that we never had a quarter for women unless you are very rich and you have, you know, separate rooms for women? But it didn't mean that you are not going from one room to the other. Like in ancient Greece, were not supposed to go from one quarter to the other unless you have permission. Women went into the streets. Women did not wear veils. You know, in ancient Egypt, in Greece, they had to cover the heads. And strangely enough, in Ptolemaic periods, when Greeks were actually sort of ruling Egypt, Greek women living in Athens, they used to come here to have the Egyptian laws
Applied to them.
because it means more freedom. And there's this amazing story about a woman who wanted to be a physician in Greece. And if you are a woman and you want to be a physician, you could be killed.
Really?
Executed. So she came to Egypt and she studied medicine and then went back to Greece and she disguised as a man. And then when she was discovered, they were sentencing her to death, except that the you know, the patients, they defended
They saved her life.
And this changed the laws in Greece.
Oh, wow, that's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yes.
So she came here in Egypt just to study
Yes.
medicine, and she couldn't practice it. She had to disguise as a man
Yes.
there. This as a time where women here in Egypt were not only studying medicine and practicing, but they were actually the physicians of kings and queens.
And they
Yes.
were writing books.
And writing books.
Writing books, and we had Cleopatra, we had a philosopher too, you know, so
Nice.
yes.
What was her name? If you
I think
remember?
Cleopatra, yes, another Cleopatra, the philosopher, and she was, I'm not sure about the name, I forgot it, but she was killed by, you know, Christian fanatics. This was
if you
when
take a look at
Christianity-
philosophers across history, most of them were
Men.
actually men.
But she
No,
had
okay.
male students, and she lived in Alexandria,
That's interesting.
this woman. Strangely enough, again, pharaohs or kings, Egyptian kings, they really appreciated women. Okay, for example, King Ahmos, and I refer to, I insisted to say his name in the way it is, Ahmos, okay, not Amos. He too, the first thing he did when he reigned, when he took office, what do you think he did?
You told me off break. He erected a temple for his mom and
another one for
and
his
grandmother.
Oh,
Yes.
that's
Amazing.
interesting.
Okay, and then he made his wife, Ahmos Nefertari, he gave her a title, God's wife, not his wife, God's wife. Amun's wife, which means that she has,
higher.
she supervises all temples in the absence of God, because God is not there. So
Okay,
she has the upper hand.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
She's like the
things.
deputy of the gods
Yes.
in reigning in temples.
Dr. Heba, till when women in ancient Egypt were keeping the status? Because I do believe that after that, there was somehow a sort of decline in the status of women in history.
After the introduction of Christianity, and with Christianity came Islam, with the misconceptions, with ideologies, and we started to lose grounds. As I said, the philosopher was killed because of her ideas.
Yes.
So that was the decline in women's status, unfortunately.
Okay. One of the interesting women to me who ruled Egypt was Queen Hatshepsut.
Yes.
Because she ruled
Amazing
Egypt
woman.
for 20 years.
Yes.
Those were very prosperous
Exactly.
20 years. She had trade relations with Africa.
Yes.
She was very interesting because if you go to her her temple in Luxor, which is again a very interesting temple because it is erected inside the mountain.
Yes.
And that was new to me. You would find that there are many of her statues, she's wearing a beard because she wanted to maintain the strength of a man. But yet again, if you take a look at the statue, her feature is very feminine.
Yes.
Like she has cheeks and
Yes. Hatshepsut never claimed that she's a man, okay? But
why
she
this
claimed
beard?
that she is a king. That's the difference. She wanted to rule as a king. It's not just Hatshepsut, it's again Twasret. What's so amazing about Hatshepsut, she was from the 18th dynasty, and the 18th dynasty is called the fabulous 18th dynasty because of all the great things, the greatness. And Hatshepsut, as a great person, as you say, she made trades. And she was very clever. You know, she
the way she ascended to the throne was very
and
clever.
she made the first
She
zoo.
made a very huge story.
You know, the first zoo in the whole world was made by Hatshepsut.
Okay.
Okay, so lots of firsts
They were
by
somehow
Hatshepsut.
pioneers, the women in the pharaonic time.
Ancient Egypt, in general, lots of firsts there. Okay, if you are going to talk about firsts in the whole world, you are going to talk about Egypt. Okay, so first rules, first you know, first zoo, first dog lover, you know.
Really?
Yes, King Intef-Waank, and which means the established in life, had 5 dogs, and he had a stela with the 5 dogs. He is the first dog lover in the whole world we know about. And he wrote the names of his dogs.
His dogs.
Yes. So we have lots of things. Hatshepsut, as you know, lots of things are said about Hatshepsut. But the truth is, as you said, the minimum years she reigned is 20 years. And she had a vision. She was a strong woman who had a vision. And she wanted to do lots of good. As I said, as you said, the trade thing. Okay,
That was very important.
very important. And you know, she went as far as Punt, and she got, you know,
The tree, you
the
would see it
trees.
there in her temple.
And strangely enough, you did not get, this means that this reflects a mentality. You do not get the product. You
Yeah.
plant it here so that you do not need other countries.
Yes. You wouldn't go
Okay.
there.
And women in ancient Egypt, back to this, the status of women. Do you know King Snefru, Khufu's father, as early as the 4th dynasty? He sent military campaigns abroad to get what? Turquoise for bracelets of his wife.
Oh.
Nice.
So, and they
They love turquoise. They love turquoise.
And they wrote on the place that we
Military
are here
campaign.
because we are going to get turquoise for the queen, and etc. etc. They were very proud about it. Okay, so that's the
What other professions did women occupy in ancient Egypt?
midwives, of course. Okay, nurses. There were schools for nurses, and you know, the king of the nurse had a very high status. The nurse, king's nurse, had a very high status in ancient Egypt. Midwives. We had schools for dancing. Dancing in ancient Egypt was a very good thing. Okay, priestess. They worked as
This is a very interesting thing, because in the ancient Egyptian civilization, the priests do occupy a very
High position.
high position.
It's true.
So for a priestess to be a female and to occupy this position, it's quite interesting.
Do you know, if you go back to the mentality of the ancient Egyptian, you will search for mythology. In mythology, goddesses were very important.
Indeed.
Okay, if you are not giving that, let's say, powerful position for women, you wouldn't have Isis. Okay, you wouldn't have Nut. You wouldn't have all the fabulous goddesses of ancient Egypt. So, and Isis, as you know, in the Isis and Osiris,
myth.
she's the heroine. Okay, she's the dominant. She's the mother, and mothers in ancient Egypt, by the way, had a very high status, which means that men in ancient Egypt really, whether they were kings or laymen, they put women or their mothers on a pedestal. You know, Ramses II. Do you know what did he say about his wife Nefertari? He made a temple and he wrote there that the sun shines for her every day. Imagine. So according, and the sun in ancient Egypt has was
Indeed.
yes.
Yeah.
So it shines for Nefertari.
That's very interesting, Dr. Heba. What were the secrets that you revealed throughout your studies when it comes to ancient Egypt?
Not really secrets, but
because all what you told us we didn't know about, to be very honest.
Well, no, they are documented. I mean, all the ones what I'm saying are documented on temples, on books, on papyri. It's there. But the problem is that nobody sheds light on it. Okay, and this is, I think, the task of Nile TV and the task of other people to shed light on great Egyptian women. It's not secret, but you know, I'm studying hieroglyphics as well, and it stops you the connection between our daily communication and some words. Okay, and I was just discussing the other day. The word sit in Arabic, it comes from Sayyida, of course, okay? But do you know the counterpart in ancient Egyptian language? Zet.
Okay.
So probably...
That meant what in ancient Egypt?
Women.
So
a woman.
Came from sit.
So you took the sa sound as a specialist in language. You take the sa sound from the Arabic word, but you keep the form, the ancient Egyptian form of the word zat. So it becomes that. Okay. And you cannot imagine how illuminating studying ancient Egypt is, because when you talk about, for example, the status of the military in ancient Egypt and how people looked at the military, you will understand the connection between the Egyptian army and its people in the present time.
We need to dedicate a special edition
About the army.
about the army and about the language. I mean, just speaking about the status of ancient Egyptian women, that was, you know, I needed to talk more about it, but now you're opening up to us new topics that we need to discuss in details, like the relationship between the people and the military, for example, some certain linguistics things that reveal the connection between today's language or Ammiya of today and the ancient Egyptian language. That would be very interesting.
Indeed.
Would like to thank you very much, Dr. Heba Nayef, for coming today to the Breakfast Show.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing you in the upcoming editions.
Inshallah.
For now, ladies and gentlemen, we are signing off. Our time is up. You were in the company of Maïs Rabia and myself, Helen Hamali. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Helen. Thank you very much, our dear viewers. Tomorrow with another crew of The Breakfast Show. Till then, it's goodbye.